We are back. Welcome in to a brand new edition of College Football Now, powered by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here with you. Thanks for joining us. Coming up on today's show, we have some rumors on Notre Dame and the Big Ten Conference as ESPN College Football analyst Greg McElroy weighs in. We'll tell you what he had to say, react to it in just a matter of moments. Also, what is going on with Florida State and Clemson as they try to depart from the ACC. We'll get you an update on that ongoing situation coming up in just a matter of moments. Before we do, if you want more college football content here on Chat Sports like you're seeing on today's show, the boss has said we need to get 20 subscribers off of today's video. YouTube.com/ChatSportsTV to subscribe for free today for the latest happenings in college football all off season long. The countdown to kickoff is on. We got you covered. Subscribe now for free, and we'll get started with today's show. Let's head to South Bend, Indiana, where the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, currently an independent, something that they've embraced for quite some time in the ongoing changing world of college football. Could they be on the move? And is the Big Ten the possible destination for Notre Dame? ESPN College Football analyst Greg McElroy did a recent interview speaking about Notre Dame and how, despite the new TV contract they have with NBC, they still could be looking at other options elsewhere and that they remain the number one target for conferences like the Big Ten, the SEC, and more. Here's more from McElroy in an interview he did with the Always College Football podcast. The number one team that they would target would be Notre Dame. Notre Dame by a mile. Notre Dame is everyone's number one. Now, like I said, would that be repetitive in the state of Indiana? You already have Indiana and you already have Purdue. Does it matter? You want Notre Dame. That's the number one target for not just the Big Ten. That's the number one target for the ACC, the number one target for the SEC. Now, personally, I think Notre Dame needs to join a conference as a full-time football member in this ongoing changing world of college football as we expand to a 12-team playoff and possibly 14 down the road, and with the direction the conference are headed, what appears to be a power 2 or 3, depending on who you ask, with the Big Ten, SEC, and the Big 12. Why should there be special rules for Notre Dame here? Why should they get to be an independent while everyone else is forced to play in these tough conferences? And when you evaluate the conferences that are possible options for Notre Dame, the Big Ten is a natural fit. And think about this as well. With the ACC's uncertainty here, with the ACC potentially collapsing, and we'll talk more about the ACC coming up in just a moment, that could leave Notre Dame looking for other options potentially. And when you look at the conferences out there, I don't think the Big Ten, the SEC, or the Big 12, the other remaining power conferences, are going to be okay with Notre Dame as a non-football member. I highly doubt those conferences would accept Notre Dame without them being a full-time football member. Now, Notre Dame, if you listen to what their people have to say, they are committed to being an independent for now. Their athletic director did an interview with ESPN recently and said the following: "We are now in as good of a position as we've ever been in the modern era of college football to be an independent. You see all the conference realignment. You see everything that's happened. I think our position as being independent in football, quite frankly, in certainly more unique than ever, but also more valuable than ever." Now, I'm calling cap on this because there's a few reasons that it doesn't make sense for Notre Dame to be an independent. Number one, they are not eligible for a first-round bye in the new college football playoff system. Notre Dame could have a perfect record. They could be the best team in all of college football, and yet they would still be, at best, a 5 seed in the current college football playoff format, and then would have to win 4 postseason games in order to win a national title. So their path is tough as is. If you join the Big Ten, the reason why I think that makes sense compared to some of the other leagues, more of their rivals are in the Big Ten. Not only are we talking Michigan and USC, but you also have Michigan State, Northwestern, and Purdue, who they could schedule more years than not. It's also a regional fit. I know that you heard McElroy mention the SEC as a possibility, but Notre Dame being right there in the state of Indiana would be close by with schools within that region, so makes sense for travel in that regard. And then a maximum revenue opportunity. Here's the thing as well. Despite Notre Dame having their own TV contract with NBC and everything there, they are making much less money with that TV contract than they would be if they were to collectively bargain and join the Big Ten and be a part of that TV contract with the Big Ten Conference, which includes networks like Fox, CBS, and NBC, who they're already partnered with. So let's ask you, should Notre Dame join a conference? I am very much of the belief that they should. What do you guys think? It's our pinned comment today. Y for yes, in for no. Weigh in and tell us what you think. Now let's shift gears to the ACC for the latest on the ongoing legal fights with Florida State, Clemson, and the Atlantic Coast Conference. According to reports, Florida State and Clemson are nearing a path to victory in their legal battles with the ACC. Two separate lawsuits going on with Clemson in the ACC and Florida State in the ACC, and Sportskeeda reports the following. While Florida State and Clemson have filed their lawsuits in different states, they are likely to experience the same outcome due to similarities in their complaints. Their success in the legal battles will undoubtedly be a great blow to the future of the league. It feels like it's only a matter of time before Florida State and Clemson get out of the ACC. Now we're just trying to figure out what the exit date is and where do they depart to in their next venture, as with both these legal fights taking place in their own states, you have to think that they're going to get pretty favorable legal treatment when it comes to taking up this legal battle. And as far as what's next, here's more. A host of schools, aside from Florida State and Clemson, are already exploring the possibilities of leaving the league despite the watertight grant of rights agreement. 7 of them met to explore the possibility last summer, while some have already reached out to the Big 12. So if I were to get my crystal ball out and predict where these schools are going to end up when the ACC does eventually fall apart, I think Florida State and Clemson end up in the SEC. It's a regional fit. They're both two football powerhouses, and it also keeps the Big Ten out of the state of Florida and protects the SEC within their boundaries here, preventing the footprint of the Big Ten reaching Florida territory. And Clemson has been a consistent top 25 team. They've won 2 national titles here in the last decade or so. To me, that makes sense. And the SEC, with their recent additions of Oklahoma and Texas, have emphasized top football programs, and Florida State and Clemson would be natural fits in that sense. Then, North Carolina and Virginia. I think they make sense in the Big Ten Conference. Personally, if the ACC were to fall apart like we expect, I think North Carolina is actually the most attractive team, not counting Notre Dame as they're not a full-time member. North Carolina, with their elite basketball program, their football program, has been ascending the right direction, one of the best public schools in the country. And you look at Virginia, there's a lot of potential there. We know they have a good basketball program, won a national championship several years ago. And then on top of that, too, the academics, both schools meet the criteria the Big Ten is looking for as far as AAU institutions, and you get into the South with those 2 schools. So what about everybody else? I think the Big 12 makes a big jump here. I think that they go get Duke, which we've seen Brett Yormark, the commissioner of the Big 12 Conference, put a big emphasis on basketball. That would be a big get for the Big 12 to add Duke, along with Kansas and Arizona, Houston and Baylor, to that Big 12 powerhouse of basketball schools. And then on top of that, too, with adding Duke into the mix, the Big 12 is looking to get a basketball-specific TV contract, and Duke would help those matters. Miami, big market. You add another Florida team with UCF there, and on top of that, you add, with Miami joining the Big Ten, a football program with great history. NC State also comes aboard, as does Louisville, and Louisville almost joined the Big 12 several years ago. The Pac-12, I think, gets reformed to an extent. Cal, SMU, and Stanford have no reason to stick around the Pac-12 with the cupboards bare, if you will. And think about this. ESPN can opt out of their TV contract. You would have to think that the ACC would probably get less money than they're making now. And with all the travel expenses for Cal and Stanford, wouldn't they be better off just calling Washington State and Oregon State and wanting to come back, taking SMU and maybe a couple others with them? So that's what I see happening. We'll see how it all plays out. What do you think are the chances the ACC survives as is, finds a way to keep Clemson and Florida State around? I would say it's not looking good. I'd give it about a 2 out of 10 personally. What do you guys think? Way in the comment section, let us know. Subscribe now to Chat Sports for continuing college football coverage all off season long. I'm Tyler Jones. We'll see you next time.